Hello, this is Adam from Carpe Omnis Games, once more here to talk about making a city with crooked alleys, specifically the city of Rothsport. So, I've actually already recorded this video once. I did an hour-long recording with me going over names for each of the different districts that I'd created and placing them on a map and drawing up a coastline and figuring all kinds of things out. And then I had some issues with the file, and it was going to take 70 hours or thereabouts to render in my video editing software to fix the issues that I was having with it. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to re-record the whole thing. So let's take this from the top. So what you're going to see here is work that I had done previously in that other video. You're not going to get the creative process here, but I am going to go over and talk about all the important things. And that's the important bit. You don't really need to, listen to me sitting here considering where the best place to put a river is. What you need is the end result and a discussion of why that end result is the way it is. So let's look at our city of Rothsport. Now, in between the previous video and this video, I gave each of the districts a name. Each of the names of the districts has something, it's supposed to represent something of the nature of the district. So for example, the noble district, Hookland Ridge. I picked a name with Ridge in the title because the city flooded at one point, and I assumed that the wealthier or noble parts of the city were the ones that survived that, so higher up, hence the Ridge. Hookland is a name that I just made up. I'm good at making up names like that. So the Slum District, meanwhile, I came up with just name that I came up with off the top of my head, Showdown. So this is a name that kind of has, in my head at least, it has a feel of an interesting slum, not necessarily like a terrible place to live, because there's an artistic enclave in here, and the Stilts certainly sounds like the sort of place with some creativity to it. But still, it's a rich, vibrant community, but still, people use those terms as the biggest descriptors for it because it's also poor and not well maintained and that sort of thing. Now, the commercial district is the Far Trade Quarter, which I thought was appropriate here because of how many docks and embassies and such are in here. The Naval Exchange is here, that niche marketplace that I rolled up. The Grey Docks, the Grand Reserve with the unfinished banking and commodities exchange, the Nornish Embassy. The Docks District, now, docks districts generally don't tend to have creative names. This is just something I've noticed from all of the different cities that I've studied, all the different fictional cities. For example, in Blades in the Dark, the city of Doskval, all of the different districts have creative names. You've got the Night Market, you've got Crow's Foot, you've got Whitestone, and then the Docks District is just called the Docks. So we're replicating that here with a little bit of a twist with the Common Docks, a little bit more flavor there, as separate from the docks in the Far Trade Quarter or, private docks somewhere else. Anyway, the religious district I called Zaneheart. Now, I've decided Zane is the name of the local religion, Xane, and so the district where it started is, of course, Zaneheart. And that fits into this church militant that we were going to be naming later, which I have decided are called the Righteous of Zorn. No, sorry, Righteous of Zane, not Zorn. The other one is called Norn. I'm conflating the two. Anyway, the wealthy district, the Heights, named as such for the same reason as I named Hookland Ridge with that Ridge name. The artisan district, that weird artisan district with the roving market, Frostcown Prison, the Raven Quarter, and Aethelwick Academy is called Bruin. Now, I think the Raven Quarter is generally just it is also colloquially used as a colloquial, I can't pronounce that right now. It's used as another name for the district as a whole, in addition to specifically the area where all the artists live. The industrial district is called Scurryville because I felt that sounded like a interesting kind of industrial district name. I don't really have any good rationale beyond that, besides that it makes the place seem like a city in itself, and I thought that would be interesting. Just taking a quick drink of water here. Now we also have the educated district as Northlock, because I wanted to have a district with another district with some interesting implications for where it would be on the map. This tells us that this district is northerly, and lock kind of implies that it's next to a body of water. So now let's take a look at this map. Specifically, let's take a look at the districts, first of all, and where I place them. So you got the ocean over here. This is the coast. The common docks are in the center. The far trade quarter is a commercial district, so it needs to be next to the docks. But the wealthy people who, not the nobles, the wealthy people who got their nobility from trade, or got their wealth from trade probably, also need to be next to the commercial district. So the Heights is just north of the far trade quarter. Now Hookland Ridge is... The interesting thing about Hookland Ridge is it's the noble quarter, or the noble district, but the main thing it has in it is forts. It's got 2 different fortifications in it, so that needs to be overlooking the harbor more than anything else, while still not being like right next to everything. And the far trade quarter needs to be on the connected to the water because it has docks. So Hookland Ridge is overlooking that area. Now, Bruin, I kind of just randomly threw in the center of everything because there wasn't any really good place for it to be, and I figured it could be a good barrier between the wealthier area and the industrial and poorer area of the city. Zanehart is off on its own. Zanehart is its own thing. Northlock is northerly. Now, I actually drew this outline first. And this was what I ended the video that I'd recorded and then couldn't get to render in a reasonable amount of time properly with. So I put Bruin in the center here, Northlock up here by this lake that I added in, the Far Trade Quarter and Zanehart on their own islands, Hookland Ridge across here, and the Heights along here. I figured like this is a ridge line. These are cliffs, not really suitable for docks, but suitable for defensive structure fortifications. The common docks are down around here. Showdown is this like whole floodplain area. Now, the thing I realized about this map is that I have a river going down through the middle of this what otherwise looks like a peninsula here, which doesn't really happen in real life. So I edited the map and replaced it with this. I turned this into an island as well, because this wilderness section up here, this tag, kind of felt a little weird. Just having random ass wilderness be next to Hookland Ridge and the Heights, the rich portions of the city, making it into its own island seemed like it made the most sense. So Bruin is still in the middle here, but there's an opening here between the docks and Scurryville, which is really important because the industrial district needs to be able to send the things that are made in the industrial district to the docks, especially since this is sails and carpentry and tanning and whatnot. Showdown is kind of down here on its own, built on this I figured this peninsula here, this area, is way lower near the waterline, so no one else really wants to build down here because it floods regularly. Zanehart, meanwhile, is its own thing down here. Now, what we know about Zane is that the religion is paranoid and fanatical. So those 2 features I felt made a lot of sense for an island off to the side rather than the island in the middle of everything like the Far Trade Quarter is here. Now, that's why I put everything where they are. Northlock is north and by the different bodies of water. Now, I also placed each of the different areas of interest within each of these. Sorry about the cough. Now let's go over each of them. So the Banning Reserve is the northern portion of this island. That makes a lot of sense. It's far from the city, etc. Gershing Necropolis, I'm actually going to move over here a little bit. I think that makes more sense. The Royal Temple's on the river. Bearings is the townhouses, very nice along the top of the ridge here. The Promenade is along the riverfront mostly. It's magic terrain. It's easy to get lost in, so it's kind of hard to tell where everything is in there. Fort Liberty is... the Dread Fort was built first because the Imperial government was here first. The Imperial government, with the appointed governor, was here first, and the Fort Liberty was built afterwards in the less advantageous position over this river, overlooking the far trade quarter, specifically between the wealthy people of Bearings and the Promenade and the Dread Fort and the manor of the Lord Governor, or Lady Governor. There's a good reason for that. It's because of the Revolution. The Advisory Council is mostly made up of people who live in Bearings, and they want some sort of defense just in case it comes down to force of arms. So it has not in 100 years, or however long it's been. Another quick drink. So, that's the Heights and Hookland Ridge, this island. Now, the far trade quarter, the Grand Reserve is, of course, up near the Heights, because the people in the Heights want to be able to get there quickly. The Naval Exchange is down near the docks, because you stay there and you bid on ships that are across the river from you. I felt that makes sense. The Grey Docks are right in front here, right in front and attached to the Norn Embassy. So ships come in here and dock at the Grey Docks. Now that means we can't put a bridge across this span here. I don't actually have... I had some bridges previously. I'm going to erase all of these actually and add, with the previous map, and I'm going to erase all of these and add bridges back in as we go. So bridges are generally at the narrowest point of the river. So, oh, that's not the right brush at all for that. Hang on. Bridges are generally at the narrowest points of a river. So I'm going to put that one there. And these people need to get over as well. So despite the cost and expense, we're going to put a big one here. That's the Imperial Bridge. Now, over here, we have this bridge, which goes into Bruin by Aethelwick Academy from there. But that bridge is unlucky. You'd much rather go on the bridge between the Naval Exchange and the Common Docks. Or this bridge here. Either the North Bridge into Bruin or the South Bridge into Bruin is unlucky. I'll figure that out at some point. Now, over here, there's no bridge because you can just go around. Over here, however, this looks like an easy spot for a bridge. Those that are close together. And the Righteous of Zane need their own bridge, which has to be here because that's the closest spot near the Righteous of Zane's area. There we go. There's all the bridges. Now, let's take a look at the Common Docks. August and Sons Shipyard is up near the Far Trade Quarter, near the Heights and the rest of the Common Docks. But this is where they build the ships. This is where Mr. August has his base of power. The Lilac Chapel is kind of in the center of everything. The rope yards are down near the south, near where it can get easy, workers in from Shaudan. I'm going to put a bridge across here. It's a cheap, small bridge, but it's there. The Purple Docks are down here near the Lilac Chapel, sort of thing. I'm going to move that actually a little bit so that that's more obvious. At Bruin, the Raven Quarter is all of Bruin, basically. Frost Crown Prison is here because the people who get thrown in prison are commonly from these three districts, possibly this one as well. So it's at the intersection of those four districts. Those are the poorer districts and also the most vulnerable to crime. Now, the Aethelwick Academy is up here in the north and near Northlock because Northlock is the educated district. So I felt that made sense. The roving market I didn't put on the map because it moves around. Now Northlock is south. Goldwith Street, I honestly wasn't sure where to put this. I ended up deciding to put it further away from everything else because there's a major chance that the alchemists and mages of Goldwith Street will blow each other up with blow themselves up with some regularity experimenting with stuff. So I figured that they should be off, a bit further from everything else. Pulp Row, on the other hand, is kind of the centerpiece of Northlock, and there's no real solid, this is where this should be automatically by default place where that should be. So I'm putting it kind of in the center. The Mad Queen Alehouse, meanwhile, is a much more centralized location. This is where the revolution started. Remember, this is the debate hall and also an alehouse. And so I put that towards the south of Northlock so there could be more in the center of the city, so they could influence things more. Triumph Fields, I again put on the outskirts of the city, but still near Scurryville, so the workers from Scurryville can go to the Triumph Fields for games and festivals more easily. Now in Scurryville, I have the Tanner's Quarter. Again, this is one of those areas that's further from the rest of the city because it smells. Nobody wants to live near the Tanner's Quarter. You use like horse urine or something along those lines in like old school tanning. So people don't want to live near there. I'm actually going to add another bridge here just because that's such an easy place to have one. It's so short there. This area has a lot of bridges. Down here has less because less rich. The Sailmaker's or the Carpenter's Quarter I put closest to the Common Docks while still being in Scurryville. Actually might move that down a little bit even there. There we go. The Trade Rows I put the Trade Rows in my mind kind of goes all the way along here. The Trade Rows is just the rest of Scurryville. The Sailmaker's Quarter, meanwhile, I put up here. It's not in a super good spot to bring goods anywhere or get to the rest of the city, which is maybe why it's abandoned now and kind of economically depressed. Now, Showdon, this is the stilts down here. This is also the stilts. Blakeley Park, this place is flooded. This entire area is kind of just like a floodplain. The floating Minotaur is floating off of the stilts. That could be... I was considering putting the floating Minotaur here or here, and I ended up putting it here because if I put it on the Zaneheart people are paranoid and fanatical, and they probably wouldn't take kindly to a floating party barge anchored off their island. Proffered Gardens, meanwhile, I put closer to land and closer to, good areas because it's a better part of Showdon, if Showdon can be said to have a good part. Zaneheart, the Open Hand is, of course, close to Showdon. The Open Hand is the charitable order of the Zane religion, and so they're close to the people that they serve, the slums there. The Cullout is the open ritual sacrificial grounds that I rolled up for the Zaneheart, which I decided to put in an area where everyone could, across the river, could see sacrifices being made on the white pyramid of the Cullout. The Righteous of Zane I put over here. They've got a fortress. They've got direct access into Scurryville. They've got fortress there. It's great. The Prudentian is back behind everything, overlooking the entire thing. I've used Zaneheart as kind of a mountain with the Prudentian at the top, the Righteous of Zane guarding the path up. And that's the city. Now, just to get a better look at things, I'm going to color this in a little bit. Okay, why is that selecting the interior as well? Where is the break in my border drawing here? That must have been it then. All right. So, just to give some idea of where the water is in the city, I've colored everything blue. Or I've colored the water blue. So, and I've got one of the small towns is up here, one of the ones that we rolled up. So, there we go. Welcome to Rothsport. Now, in addition to making all of this since my last video, I've also been expanding the tables that I use to roll up the city. So instead of having one quirk table. I initially started with one table of area quirks that was 1d20 long. And when I was rolling up all of these areas, I kept getting the same results, and it was kind of annoying. So I've been working on that, and I've been changing it to 2 tables, a physical area quirks and a cultural area quirks, and each of them in the final book is going to be 50, at least 50 items long. So you roll a percentile die, and like 1 through 2 is this, 3 through 4 is this, etc. And you can roll on the physical quirks table and the cultural quirks table for every area of interest you have, every district you have, and the city as a whole if you want. So that's going to give you a lot of granular options there for detailing each of these places. Now, I'm not going to re-roll for each of these because I think I came up with some pretty good stuff here. But the thing was, some of the good stuff that I came up with Rothsport, I had to come up with myself, and it wasn't like inspired by my rolls in any way. It was just what I decided would be cool, which, you know, that's great. That's a great way to make things. But it kind of defeats the purpose of the tables. So I'm improving those for the final book. And now this city is going to go in the final book. I'm going to pretty up this map a bit. I may do that myself, or I may hire someone to draw a map for me. I've seen a lot of really cool looking maps at different times of fantasy cities where they're done from like an overhead perspective and something that looks like it was drawn on old school paper that's kind of like super aged and looks like a image of the city from above, like they draw all the buildings and stuff, and those always look really cool to me. So I may, depending on how much I'm able to invest in this project, I may either pretty up this map myself and just use this, or I may hire someone to create a cool looking map like that. Either way, this right here is the basis for what we are going to see in Crooked Alleys in the example city section of chapter 1. Once again, thanks for coming with me through this experience of creating a city with Crooked Alleys. Hopefully this helps you create your own cities. Mapping them out afterwards is a lot of fun, I think. Getting the coastline right, getting this weird set of islands and peninsulas and lakes and stuff all how it should be. I still don't know if this is like makes geographic sense, but it's a fantasy city, so whatever, right? I mean, if we wanted to run a realistic game, we'd run it in the real world, right? It has to be realistic enough that you can make basic assumptions like gravity works and stuff, and water flows downhill most of the times, unless magic's involved. But, you know, I think this came out all right. I especially like Bruin just as a district. That's really interesting. This whole place has kind of a gothic Venice vibe, which I'm finding really, really attractive. Let's see, if I don't know if I'm going to do any more videos in this series. If I do, it'll probably be about expanding the factions that we have, because right now I don't have a huge amount of notes on each of them. However, all of that stuff is basically stuff that isn't that interesting to see me do, because I just kind of sit there thinking for a while and then write something down. So I don't really know if anyone wants to see that. At any rate, this came out pretty well. Thanks for coming with me on this voyage through Crooked Alleys and on this journey we've taken to Rothsport. And hopefully, I'll be finished working on Crooked Alleys soon and be able to run a Kickstarter to fund publication. That's the plan. I'm hoping for late 2018 for that. All I've got to do is finish up these charts that I decided to expand, finish up a couple other charts that I decided to expand further, edit the whole thing, and get some illustrations commissioned. Actually, there's a lot of work to do, isn't there? Well, so it goes. I've been working on this and also another project called Station 9, which is a card game where players are aliens trying to share the same space station, each with different life support requirements. So it's kind of like passive aggressively changing the thermostat, except everyone's an alien who needs like different atmospheric composition and gravity to survive, or at least be comfortable. So I'm also working on that in the background. I'm pretty sure this project, Crooked Alleys, is going to be done first because I'm a lot closer to finishing it, but I don't know for sure. Anyway, hopefully you'll be seeing this book soon and you can get your hands on it, either a physical copy or PDF. And until then, here's Rothsport. And since I've talked through everything I did to create Rothsport, honestly, you could probably pick enough stuff out of this video series to run a game here already if you wanted to. Or you could wait for me to write it up and put it in the book. Since I made this in front of everyone, this section will probably be in any like demo file that I give people just to show you like what the end result of the book was going to be like. So yeah, you should be able to get your hands on this. Maybe not soon, but at some point. Anyway, thanks for bearing with me. Keep an eye on your back. There's knives in the shadows tonight. And have a grand old time in the crooked alleys of the old city. Peace out.